Ladies and gentlemen, can you please give a big round of applause for the MEP for Barnet Castle. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Julie Ward, everybody.
Thank you very much. I should just be really clear there. I was the Member of European Parliament for here, for the northwest of England, from 2014, when I stood against the fascist Nick Griffin and kicked him out of the European Parliament, and we destroyed the BNP.
Yes!
And I stood again in 2019, last year, and we stopped Tommy Robinson and his fascists then. So, I represented 6 million people for 5.5 years. And I made many, many speeches during that time. Speeches at rallies, speeches in the European Parliament. I met presidents, prime ministers, foreign ministers, ambassadors, visiting dozens and dozens of countries all around the world as a proud British politician. But I'm here today to tell you a very personal story. And it is a story about Barnard Castle. And it is a story about why I'm not moving on until Dominic Cummings has gone. And why is that? Because I ended up living in lockdown with my 90-year-old father in the town of Barnard Castle, which very few people had even heard of until Dominic Cummings decided to go and get his eyes tested. Well, that very weekend, it was Easter weekend, and I had said to my father, we are not going to be part of the problem. We are not going to be super spreaders. We will be super preventers. We will set an example. We will stay here in your one-roomed flat, in your sheltered housing accommodation, which is where I was for 4.5 months, sleeping on the floor of my father's flat, on the first floor with no access to the outside environment. I said, we are staying here. We will be part of the solution. We will not infect other people. So you can imagine my distress when I discovered that Dominic Cummings thought it was all right for having a day out with his wife in Barnard Castle, in the very place where I was, where I chose not even to venture outside the door. I was furious. And my 90-year-old father, who had never before written to his MP or councillor, he was in the RAF, by the way, so he is somebody who fought for this country. My father wrote to his newly elected Conservative MP, Dehenna Davison, she's called. She hangs out with fascists in pubs in Bishop Auckland. Find out about her. She's on Hope Not Hate's watch list. He wrote to Dehenna Davison, and she has not replied. But things for us as a family became worse, because my mother had been in a nursing home for 3 years. She had dementia, and the home was literally 5 minutes walk up the street from where my dad lives. And we were not allowed to go and visit my mother from the period where lockdown began until she started to die. And at that point, on June the 11th, we received a call from the nursing home to tell us that we should go and visit my mum. 5 days later, she died. I'm glad I had 5 days with her, but for 3 months, there was no contact between my dad, my mum, my sisters, and my mum. And in the nursing home, they had COVID. My mum tested 3 times negative for COVID, but she had the symptoms. And I don't know how many of you know this, but 1/3 of the negatives are false negatives. But my mum's deterioration was largely because of the separation, of the fact that she couldn't understand what was happening around her. And my father's not being able to be with her has also meant that his life has really deteriorated. His health has really deteriorated. So I became one of the bereaved during the pandemic. And I'm not unique, and I think that's really important to remember. There are thousands of people who have lost loved ones during this pandemic, unnecessarily, because of the way that the government failed to act, because of its total ineptitude in dealing with the crisis. Because when the other countries were warning that we were going to get COVID-19, where was Boris Johnson? He was delivering Brexit. He was making speeches in Greenwich that sounded like something from the Empire. He missed 5 Cobra meetings. He wanted power, but he didn't want to do his job. He's a part-time Prime Minister. And the Tory party actively seeded COVID into nursing homes by sending back old people out of hospital without testing them, and put people like my mum and her carers on the front line. He didn't care about any of us. So I'm angry. I'm one of the bereaved, and I am really angry. And Nazir Afzal, who used to be the public prosecutor for the northwest of England, he is also bereaved. He lost his uncle early in the crisis. He has got together with other bereaved people, and they are trying to pursue a legal case against the government for their failure to take care of its population. And Dominic Cummings' visit to Durham and to Barnard Castle is part of that evidence, because it was one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us. And my father and I obeyed the rule. We looked out for each other and for everybody else, and for the workers in the NHS and for the carers. But the government, the people at the heart of the government, thought they could do what the hell they liked. Well, we're angry, and we're not moving on until Dom is gone and until this government is out on its arse. So, be angry. Use that anger. You know, I was never in politics until I got angry. Round about 2010, 2011. I got very angry. I got angry about the lies that the Daily Mail and the Daily Express were telling about my friends in Europe. I got really angry about that because I'd been working across borders with young people on peace projects, and I knew that the EU was a peace project, and I knew all about the opportunities it gives to our young people, and I was furious with the lies that were being told about my citizenship as a European, and I'm still angry about that. We all need to be angry about the lies. We need to be truth tellers, but we need to do what Claire's done. And so I salute you, Claire, and I salute the young nurse who was speaking here before. I salute all of you who decide that you will stand up, make a stand, and take the empty space. Because what Mr. Bentall said is true. The fascists win by using democracy to undermine democracy. When we say, oh, politicians, they're all the same, so we'll stay at home and we won't vote, that's not what the fascists do. They rub their hands. They love it when you stay at home and when you don't engage and when you say politicians are all the same, because they have a plan. Well, we're on the march again. In fact, we never stopped, did we? We were still talking to each other and organising using social media. And now we're allowed out and we're going to be socially distanced in our campaigns and our protests. We are even more angry than before. So use that anger, claim that empty space, and let's keep remembering all the people who lost their lives needlessly during this terrible time. I remember somebody from the SAGE group, the people who are advising the government, saying it'll be a good outcome if 20,000 people die. Well, we are nearing 50,000 and counting. And there probably will be a second wave. And we know who's responsible for that. So, today is COVID Memorial Day. Now, some of the organisers here didn't know that, but I think that's serendipity. I think that's meant to be, that you organise today on the day when there's a national memorial for all the people who died during this pandemic. And there's a campaign to create a 60-hectare forest, a memorial space, where we can tell stories about the people who died during this pandemic. We will not forget them. We will always hold them in our hearts, and we will stand up for decent, quality democracy, because that's what we need. Not pretend democracy, not fake democracy, but quality democracy, where people understand the questions they're being asked and are not afraid to ask the politicians questions either. So thanks for being here. And if you're still here tomorrow, at 1 o'clock tomorrow, there is a rally here to welcome refugees. So show your solidarity also to the people who are fleeing conflict and unsustainable lives because of climate change and war and terrible dictatorships all over the world. You know, sorry, last thing I'm going to say. My family were Huguenot refugees. We were part of the first wave of refugees who came to the UK in the late 1700s, fleeing France. We gave the word refugee to the English language. And my family were lace makers, and they settled in Nottingham. And with their lace-making skills, they founded the wealth of that city. So let's welcome refugees with all their skills, all their hopes, all their dreams. We're all refugees and migrants. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I love her. I do.